Question number 1. Who wrote the book of Leviticus? Well, the simple answer to that question is Moses wrote the book of Leviticus. And it's also a true answer. It may be the case that the form we have the book in today, that it took shape many years after Moses. We can still say Moses is the figure who stands behind the book of Leviticus. Question number 2. Do other Christians have confession? So do Christians who are not Catholic have confession? Well, let's take a look at Protestants. There are Protestants who have confession. Anglicans, Episcopalians, Lutherans, and Methodists, as far as I know, have confession where a person would go and confess to a minister. It's something that's offered. It's not required. It's not very common in some of those denominations. But it's a little bit different than the Catholic understanding. Catholics understand that Jesus intended for confession to be the normal way that we approach God, repentant, and are forgiven, especially for serious sin. And that's why Jesus gave priests the power to absolve people of their sins. And it's only in the Catholic and Orthodox churches that we have validly ordained priests. Question number 3. What was Pontius Pilate's family like, and did they encourage or discourage him from crucifying Jesus? Well, like a lot of people who lived 2,000 years ago, we don't know a lot about Pontius Pilate, and we know even less about his family. The Gospel of Matthew does mention that he had a wife, and his wife said to him during the trial of Jesus, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man. I have suffered much today over him in a dream." So his wife apparently discouraged him from crucifying Jesus. But we don't know anything about the kind of dream she had or why she said that to Pilate. But I imagine that Bible verse is what was behind this question. Question number 4. Has God gotten angry at anyone since the Tower of Babel? Okay, let's talk about the anger or the wrath of God. We know that it's not the case that God is normally a peaceful guy, but then people do something bad and God gets really, really angry. And then God kind of cools off again after a while. And then he's sort of we know that that's not God, right? God is unchanging, and God doesn't have that kind of emotion of anger that we have. So the Bible talks a lot, however, about God's wrath. So what does that mean? Well, when people rebel against God, when you make yourself God's enemy, you have cut yourself off from the source of all life and goodness. And sometimes God lets you have your way and lets you experience the consequences of cutting yourself off from all life and goodness. And it's really painful and unpleasant. And that's what we call experiencing God's wrath. It's really an action of God's love and mercy to let us experience the consequences of our actions so that maybe we'll repent and turn back to him. And if we do, then our experience of his love and mercy won't be painful. It will be joyful. Question number 5. What does Jesus mean when he says that you should hate your father and mother? Well, God doesn't contradict himself. And we know that in the Old Testament, in the 10 Commandments, he said, honor your father and your mother. And we know the 10 Commandments are binding on everyone everywhere. So we have to understand what Jesus, who is God, says in light of that. It can't be contradicting that. So when he says you must hate your father and your mother, he doesn't mean the emotion of hatred, okay? He means that even that closest of relationships that you have with your parents can't be put first before God, can't be more important than your relationship with God. So sometimes you have to turn your back on your parents, not hate them, but go in another direction if that's what God is calling you to. Let's look at the example of when Jesus called James and John to be his followers. They had to leave their father Zebedee behind. They did not bear the feeling of hatred in their heart for him, but they had to turn and go in another direction. Even if he had been telling them not to, they would have to put the call of Jesus first in their lives. Question number 6. Why are there altar servers? To help the priest. Yep, I think that's it. They're there to help the priest. Question number 7. Is it a mortal sin if you own a business that makes products that poison people? Well, that's an interesting question. Morality does apply to business. You still have to, for example, follow the 10 Commandments. So if you're making a product that poisons people or hurts people, and you know that it's going to hurt people, I would say that's definitely a bad place to be in. That's sinful because you're breaking the 5th commandment, thou shalt not kill, not showing respect for human life. And you're also breaking the 8th commandment because you're presenting your product as safe when it's not, which is a kind of lie. So by choosing profit over life, you're definitely going against God's commandments. Question number 8. Why did God create so many planets? After all, we only need one, the planet Earth. So why all the galaxies and the Milky Way and all the planets in the universe that's so large? Well, I think it's a reflection of God's infinite goodness, of God's overflowing love and generosity, that the vastness and beauty of the universe reflects the vastness and the beauty of God. I think it's also the same reason that God made both chocolate and vanilla. He didn't have to. It's just his overflowing goodness that he gave us such a beautiful universe. Question number 9. Did God create other intelligent beings in the universe? This is a very popular question. And of course, God could create other intelligent beings. It's something he's capable of. But the question is, did he? And we have to say that we don't know for sure. And the size of the universe makes us think that maybe there is somebody out there. But I think when we look at Revelation, I tend to think that there's not. I don't think there's anything in salvation history that points in that direction. It would raise a lot of theological questions if there were. Are those other beings without sin? If they are, did our sin or could our sin affect them? Did Jesus die for them too? Interesting questions. So I lean toward no, but it could be. And don't forget, God did create other intelligent beings besides us, and they're known as angels. And there are many, many angels. So just because they're invisible, even though we paint them with bodies, don't forget that they're there. Question number 10. Does each person have a special mission? Yes. Each unique, unrepeatable person loved into being by God has a special place in God's plan. All of us are called to holiness, to become closer to God, and to help bring other people to God, to be part of God's mission. But we're each called to do that in a special and unique way. So I'm going to close with a prayer by St. John Henry Newman that talks a little bit about this, because his words are more beautiful than mine. God has created me to do him some definite service. He has committed some work to me which he has not committed to another. I have my mission. I may never know it in this life, but I shall be told it in the next. I am a link in a chain, a bond of connection between persons. He has not created me for naught. I shall do good. I shall do his work. I shall be an angel of peace, a preacher of truth in my own place while not intending it, if I do but keep his commandments. Therefore I will trust him. Whatever I am, I can never be thrown away. If I am in sickness, my sickness may serve him. In perplexity, my perplexity may serve him. If I am in sorrow, my sorrow will serve him. He does nothing in vain. He knows what he is about. He may take away my friends. He may throw me among strangers. He may make me feel desolate, make my spirit sink, hide my future from me. Still, he knows what he is about. I have my mission. That's it for Random Religion Questions this week. I'll see you next week.